Good evening and welcome. I'm Sheila Balgobin and I am the Dream Decipherer. And I help you to crack the code of your sleep and dreams so you can sleep sound and dream deep. This evening's dream I've dubbed the Matrix 2.0. It seems that this dreamer was having a Matrix moment like the film. So let's get into it and see what's going on here. And there's like three sections, little sections to this dream. The first starts where the dreamer reports that the dreamer and the dreamer's dad were repossessing the dad's vehicle, and this is the where the Matrix bit kind of comes in, because there's two versions of this dream, two different outcomes or two different actions. So in the first version of this dream, or this part of the dream, the dreamer reports that their father had lent his car, an older model car, to a friend who failed to return it, and that the dreamer and his dad had to go and ask for it back. That was version one. In version two of the same in the same dream, the dreamer reports that the dad had Hello there. My laptop is playing games with me yet again, but I'm not having it. I'm simply not having it. So I've had to switch to my phone, and I hope there isn't too much dead air on this other line. But in any case, as I was saying, in the second part of this Matrix part of this dreamer's dream, in the second version of this scenario, the dad had loaned his car to a friend, who then refused to return it. So the dreamer and the dad decide that they're going to go and steal the car back. And that little scenario ends. So that's the Matrix bit, but we'll see what else is going on here. In the next part of the dream, the dreamer reports that there was a rave that was being able to. Thank you for that remark, by the way. It's just like the universe is playing games, but I'm not having it. But in any case, the dreamer reports in the next part of the dream that he was invited to a rave that had been organized by some friends, and he was supposed to be scheduled to return, to do a turn on the decks as a DJ, doing some old school style music and different styles of music like jungle, drum and bass, etc. So the dreamer was scheduled to do this set later on during this event. And finally, the last part of this dream was the dreamer was driving to a campsite and was looking at their sat nav, but ended up somehow during all of this stuck behind some horses. So, and the dream ends there. So these three little dreamlets, as I call it, or four if you count the Matrix thing twice, there is something going on here. So let's kind of look into this, break it down, and see what's going on here. Now, as I said, that I dubbed this dream the Matrix 2.0. And what's interesting about it is obviously there's somewhat two versions of reality, or, as if you could go back in time and redo things like you can in the Matrix. So there's a suggestion here that time is just fluid, that past, present, and future just kind of run together depending on what position you're standing in when you're looking at something. And it's this an old song, an old school song came to me at the time when I read this by a guy called Tyrone Davis, called "If I Could Turn Back the Hands of Time." And I just wonder if there's some area of the dreamer's life that they wish they could have done again, or it's something that they want to go back to or take back. There just seems to be something about looking back in time somehow. And we'll come back to that a little bit later. But the questions that I have for the dreamer here is, what does the Matrix, the film, actually represent for the dreamer? What does that mean? And in that sense, excuse me, what does the dad, and of course it's his dad, so they wouldn't name the dad, but call the dad by name, but it's a role, it's a position rather than a person. It is and it's not, if you get what I mean. But what does the dad as a role or as a position mean for the dreamer, as well as this vehicle, this old style vehicle that I don't think has been manufactured in many years? What does that represent specifically for the dreamer? There's obviously a connection between dad and this vehicle, and what exactly is that evoking for the dreamer? My other question was, who the hell is this mysterious friend? He takes stuff and then doesn't give it back. Whether you have to ask for it back or steal it back, they don't seem to be very much of a friend. And there's a couple of things that are indicated to me in this. And the first being that this could be the dreamer's shadow, the unacknowledged and unseen or misunderstood, perhaps, parts of the dreamer's inner world. And this shadow hijacks the dreamer in some way. And cars often in dreams will represent our journey through life, whether it's you're riding a bus or taking a plane or walking or riding a bike. There's something, it represents the movement or the speed of movement in our journey through life. So you have this car that's being hijacked by a so-called friend. And I would ask the dreamer here, is there some area of the dreamer's life where they feel that their life has been hijacked in some way, that something has been taken from them and they have to either ask for it back or steal it back because the person won't give it to you, or the situation isn't giving to you. So there's that bit, but there's also this different, if you look at this shadow figure in a wider sense, in a more energetic sense, as a shadow of the dreamer themselves, it seems that you have both the negative and positive sort of aspects of this friend, this shadow. You have a positive aspect in that it's a part of the dreamer that needs to be acknowledged and let out. But it seems that when not acknowledged or contradicted in some way, it becomes negative. It becomes selfish and uncaring and inconsiderate. And I just wonder if there's aspects in somewhere in the dreamer's life where there may be that kind of flip-flopping of energy, where things or people or situations have both a negative as well as positive aspect to them. Then we move on to the rave. The dreamer is scheduled to play a set on the decks, some old school style music at a rave some friends have organized. Now, my first question here is, well, what does a rave represent to the dreamer? And doing some DJing, what does that represent for the dreamer? And why old school? And we seem to this old theme of old things or things in the past seem to be a theme here, but we'll come back to that. But what is it about this old school music that is of particular interest to the dreamer? What is that about? And then you have the friends, the anonymous, again, a role or position. You have the friends as a collective, as a group that surround the dreamer. Now, the dreamer is part of their event and is playing, has sort of like a minor role in this event. Is that what the dreamer actually wants, to just, to be invited to come in and do their thing and then take off again? Or is that what the collective expects the dreamer to do? Is there something there perhaps for the dreamer to look at? And then finally, we get to this campsite. The dreamer is driving, no longer stuck with this car that isn't in their possession anymore, but is now driving. Is it the same car as in the earlier part of the dream? Perhaps, perhaps not, doesn't say. But is driving to a campground using sat-navs, looking at the sat-nav while they're driving, looking for this campground, but is stuck again, or at least slowed down by horses in front of the vehicle. And the thought that popped into my head when I read that was like, you just got to hold your horses, man. So what is it about horsepower, if you will? I mean, a modern vehicle with sat-nav versus literal big animals, horses, mean for the dreamer? What is there about that same yet not the same I'm not quite sure if I can how to put it, but what is it? There's just seems to be a juxtaposition here between modern and the old once again, so that there's forward movement, but it gets blocked by something old and more traditional, if you will, in the way. So looking at all of this, as say, what are exactly the connections between these three little dreamlets, or four, if you will? It seems to me that what resonated for me here was that time connects all of these bits of the dream. You've got the past represented in the Matrix in two different versions of with the dad and the car, this old model car. Then you have the future that's represented by this DJ slot that the dreamer is supposed to participate in. It hasn't happened yet, so it's in the future. Then you have the present, where the dreamer is stuck behind horses. And the words that came up in my head, slowpoke, here in England or in the UK, slow coach, same thing. In other words, something that's plodding along and not really moving. And my question here for the dreamer was, where is the past and the future perhaps getting stuck in the present? That's the question perhaps for the dreamer to look at. Where is things from the past and worries or concerns about the future creating analysis paralysis in the present? And then maybe that's something that the dreamer needs to look at. I mean, even the language, and when I look back at this, I had to realize even the language indicated this passage of time. I mean, in the first part, the matrix part of the dream, it was in the past. The car had already been borrowed and not given back, and two scenarios were given as to what to do about it. In the middle bit of the dream, it was an event that hadn't taken place yet, and the dreamer was going to participate when it took place. And then the third bit, where the dreamer's looking for the campsite, it's driving to a campsite, looking, so it's in the present. Gerunds, it's actually going on in real time. So there's something about perhaps the time that's of concern to the dreamer, maybe running out of it, maybe looking back in time, maybe taking things from the past into the future, and somewhere along the way in all of this is getting stuck. And maybe that's something for the dreamer to look at. So there you have it. And if you're getting stuck in your dreams and they've got you going round and round in circles, which can happen to everyone, even me, get some help. Ask. You can get some tips on how to look at your dreams. A short free consultation you can just book as below. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Have a great evening and rest of the week. And I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.